We are now going to pivot onto a very important topic, and with a firm that's doing incredibly important work. So let's talk about identity and what that looks like for the future. So please, I welcome Accenture's team here who are leading the path towards digital identity.
Thank you, Sandra. And should we do the video first? Thank you.
With the number of international arrivals expected to grow 50% by 2030, travellers need seamless ways to cross borders that also protect national security while protecting their personal data. The Known Traveller Digital Identity, or KTDI, is a public-private collaboration that enhances security efforts while enabling a connected journey for today's international traveller. The KTDI is the only global travel initiative of its kind. Travellers can share documentation and information from one verified identity with partners including government authorities, airlines and hotels. The KTDI allows travellers to play an active role in travel security efforts by sharing their information proactively. Travellers always retain control over what, when and with whom they share their information. Each data element shared by the traveller is verified, accurate and consistent every time. This is made possible by the technologies of distributed ledger, cryptography and biometrics. As more data and information is added, travellers build more enriched profiles that build trust with each partner interaction. Let's follow one example of what the journey could look like for future travellers. After travellers download the KTDI app and create their profile, governments provide and authenticate the traveller's identity data based on their passport or government-issued digital ID. Biometrics will link the digital identity with the physical person and their national identity document. When approved, profiles are securely stored and encrypted in individual identity wallets. These contain the original government attestation and additional attestations as proof of the traveller's history of border crossings, plane trips and hotel check-ins. When a traveller shares required identity information, the attributes they share are checked and validated through encrypted links to their source information. Whether the traveller is booking a flight, boarding a plane or entering a destination country, the travel provider or government authority can be sure that the information shared is authentic and verified by the issuing organisation. Travellers could also send their information to authorities in advance of departure, allowing travellers that are deemed low risk to be screened sooner and processed faster. Hotels could offer self-service check-in via facial recognition to ensure travellers are who they say they are. Throughout the journey, the Known Traveller Digital Identity creates one connected process to build trust, encourage travel, and allow precious security resources to focus on the areas of greatest need. Components of the Known Traveller Digital Identity will be championed by the governments of Canada and the Netherlands. Additional partners include Air Canada, KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, Toronto Pearson International Airport, Montreal Trudeau International Airport, and Amsterdam Airport Schiphol, in collaboration with the World Economic Forum and Accenture. The Known Traveller Digital Identity will be piloted this year, unlocking the power to change how we travel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christine Leong. From Accenture. I lead Accenture's global role in terms of a decentralized identity, and Dan Bachenheimer, who's our technical expert and lead our unique services, which is biometrics capabilities in the firm globally. So this is what you saw just now in the video. It's a major project for us, and of course with the World Economic Forum, as we're here in Davos several years ago, it was sort of discussed in terms of global travel increasing. We all had to queue, lots of times, several times a day right now. Think about how much easier it would be if we are just able to be trusted, to able to get through, to go through things much faster, much quicker, and how much easier it would be for governments, all with limited resources, to focus on the people that really need to be focused on. Really might be terrorists, might be some dodgy people smuggling some stuff, versus dealing with someone who's a frequent traveler, who's of low risk. And from a customer's perspective, from passenger safety perspective, as well as from the airlines and the airports, there is limited space. You know, how many more runways? I'm British. The Heathrow discussion around the third runway has been going on for God, I don't know how long. And as much as we want to travel less and have less sort of carbon footprint, the reality is traveling is increasing. So, and it's not just the air borders. It's also land borders. It's also cruise liners. Think of if you bought an A380, how long it takes. And the security aspects, the safety aspect, the trust aspect. And passport wasn't invented just for cross-border travel. That was the original intent. What else do we use it for today? We use it for many, many, many things. So we see this as a first step of having a trusted identity that, much like the passport that was invented to enable you to cross-border, today you use it to open a bank account, to drive a car, to get a driving license, rent an apartment, get a job, so on and so forth. So we think this is very much a first step, and to, as a legal form of identity that will be, supported by the government of Canada and Netherlands, and live passengers will be going through later this year. Our components are already live in production. This is built on Indy, and I'll pass over to Dan to talk a little bit about the technology. And at the end, we have a demo. And before I pass over to Dan for the technology and the demo, what I really want to, we can't show you the KDTI bit of the demo because it's the next session inside this Congress Center. So we're under a bit of lock and key. What we're going to show you is actually, if you think about the last bit of your journey, the car, that once you get out of the airport, you're in a secure environment. So many of us get into an Uber, different car service or different capabilities around how we ride share. How do we know that drivers are really who they say they are? We've seen lots of statistics, lots of news stories, some horror stories. I'm sure each one of us have a story to tell in that space. 2 years ago at Davos, our Ellen Shook, our chief HR officer, said to me, "You do this really cool stuff, really innovative. But in India, we drive all our women home at night. We employ over 100,000 people in India." And of course, being very passionate, Ellen, being very passionate about female workforce participation. She said, we're seeing a drop of participation, not because we're not a great company to work for, but they're scared to travel at night. Even when we drive them home, they're scared to travel at night, which quite rightly so, right? Many of us wouldn't be getting into a car 5 years ago with a stranger. Today we do it all the time. So we said, well, how can we help to solve some of that problem? How can we make sure that it's the same person that we did a background check for, it's the same person that shows up for each of the ride, and they didn't give their phone to their cousin, they didn't give the thing to someone else, so that it's still the same person and have assurance for us in terms of our employees are safe, but also that the driver, when we tested this out in a production-grade pilot in India, that the drivers, it encourage safe behavior. So what we're going to show you is something called Safe Drive. Exactly the same platform, exactly the same capabilities, and you'll be able to see it, touch it. It's being run in production, so you guys can have a look. So with that, I'll let Dan talk a little bit about the Known Traveler Identity Program and the technology.
Okay, thank you. So as Christine said, we're all used to traveling with our passports, which is a form of digital identity. And even with automation today, to reduce some of the lines that Christine was talking about, there's some automated gates, but you already have to be in that country to scan your passport, to read the attestation, which is your identity data, including your biometric, to get through that gate. With KDTI, we could have that information, as Christine said, sent ahead of time, or as the video said, sent ahead of time, so government entities, airlines, airports can get that information ahead of time to segment the population to facilitate that. Another important aspect of this digital identity, which KDTI has and what SafeDrive has, is the ability to have an identity wallet where more than one attestation from more entities than a single government can be put in that identity wallet. In the previous session, they said Davos a few years ago, everything was talking about blockchain. Here, they're not talking about it much because they're talking about applications. This is, or these are, two applications of a digital identity, decentralized identity that use blockchain as the underlying underlying technology, enabling technology. So if we could switch over to the HDMI. Okay. And because this is a demo, we had a screen mirroring that Christine and I went through yesterday, and everything was working. So now the mirroring isn't working. I'll just switch back and forth to this demo here. Let's see. So this, much like the video where the traveler will download the KDTI app, here a driver will download the app. As Christine said, in India there was a challenge to have. Oh, yep. Oh. Oh, okay. Verified drivers drive female employees. So on the, so on this app, I'll just show you that I'm just simulating here because I have one device, a passenger Dan and a driver Dan. So I'll be the driver, and I'll quickly. Sorry. And so, so there's two elements that we're going to show in this identity wallet that the driver has been background checked and gets employed by Accenture. So we'll just do this quickly. The Better Place is doing the background check, kind of like when Department of State, in my case, would look at my identity data, do the identity proofing. So Better Place is going to ask for my, who's this driver? Okay, I claim to be Dan, and I'm just going to send my data. Of course, I have to give informed consent, but I'm going to send my basic data. And then what I'll do is switch over just so that you can see again. So, it's a little bit clunky because the screen mirroring, but this is the portal that's simulating this. We have Better Place and Accenture as an employee, so we'll go through this, and I'll just leave it here right now. So we have driver Dan. We're gonna do all the background check, whatever is required in this use case, and we're gonna issue a verified ID. And so there, you collect some information either through automated scan or just an interview, whatever you want to do. This is just a mock-up. You could set an expiration for this, but we'll just go ahead. Go through this real quickly. Because I have my protector on. Yeah, it's going to be dark, but. And capture live photo. Here we're just showing you could do some quality checks to make sure it's ISO compliant, which a lot of passports aren't compliant, but we're just going to go ahead and accept it. And quickly say, we're going to add an attestation to the wallet. Again, this is something that you, in KDTI, it could be government, multiple governments, airlines, entry-exit stamps. The idea is we're moving away from a static document to, okay, now we're getting it into my identity wallet, and I could just quickly show you here that now in my my identity wallet I have this Better Place attestation, so that we can now this driver has been verified and can go to Accenture and say, I want to be an Accenture driver and get an employment attestation so that I could drive. And You just go here. So you show up at Accenture. Yep.
And basically, the steps are exactly the same in terms of how you get an attestation, whatever data is entered. And then as Dan goes through the sort of same process in terms of acquiring that attestation, imagine it could be anything, right? In the No Traveler Digital Identity project will be issued by the government. So those identities will be highly trusted, high assurance identity. Different process will be used depending on the local legislation. Some cases it would be in-person proving for some of the governments. In some places it would be remote. So you can imagine you scan your passport, they might do it remotely, and it depends on sort of the different, and depends on local regulations how this would be done. Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, go for it.
So I get the part where you're verified as a driver and you have an expiry, let's say it's a year, so fine, it won't come up again until a year, is that right?
No, it depends on it. So you can set the expiration date.
Yeah, let's just say I make it for a year.
Sure.
What if Daniel turns into a bad guy, does something, and there's some sort of violation, like he runs up 20 tickets?
Perfect. Great question. So as part of the No Traveler Digital Identity project, within we use the replication within India. So we put replication this one. So let's say if there's I do something really bad and the UK government decides to revoke me, and say this passport, this identity is no longer valid, then as I cross border somewhere else, as I cross border somewhere else, and you say, oh, I check on the blockchain. So let's say I'm going into the US. CBP can check the blockchain and say, right, this digital ID that was shared in advance, we know this is no longer valid. That the UK government says, the seen is dodgy. They can do a number of different things, right? But it's up to then the CBP to decide whether they let me in, they track me, they put me in the room, whatever it may be. And it's really then the organization's decision. But they can check using the replication list to see whether that identity is still valid.
So in theory, in practice, there should be another layer of governance verification.
Correct. Yes.
Once you're verified once, I get it, but things change, right?
Correct. And that's exactly why sort of as you go through sort of this is the acquisition process, so the enrollment process. After that, as you use, there will be aspects of whether this person is no longer validated. So therefore, I revoke. So if I'm governor, I might revoke. Organization, you can revoke. Or in some cases, it depends on the type of identity. I, as the holder of my own identity, I might choose to revoke and say, right, this is no longer valid because I severed that relationship. Or I don't.
Yeah, it's a really important question. And going back to passports, when for every transaction, as you're pointing out, you want to verify this. As Christine accurately, perfectly stated, the issuing entity could revoke that identity attestation at any time. When a government can revoke the signing cert, the country signing cert of e-passports, but according to ICAO standards, that covers typically 100,000 documents. What Christine said, it emphasized as part of Hyperledger Indy, you can revoke individual verifiable credentials. And you do that on the blockchain. If a country revokes their signing certificate for a passport, they have to update a centralized public key directory that each country that wants to validate passports has to download. The key element why we use blockchain here is exactly what Christine said. You could, at any point, do a revocation. It gets propagated throughout all the nodes of the blockchain, so anybody that verifies it, and to your second point, yes, you verify this at every travel encounter, or in the case of a driver, I'm not verified yet. So what we've done with Safe Drive, because unlike a border crossing where at an e-gate, I'm verifying in real time that my identity has not been revoked, as you just said, and that the document holder is the authorized document holder via facial recognition. Here, what we've done here is once I could verify my face ID, and that will be good for one encounter with this passenger. And then when I pick up a new passenger, I have to verify again. Otherwise, I could have given my ID to Christine, and then we're a bad actor, and but they would not be verified for that ride. But here, all it's showing when we move back to here, now I have 2 attestations in my identity wallet as a driver. There's no identity attestations in the passenger wallet, and that's why we're just not bothering showing it here. But there's a background check, there's an employment check. And we did a very similar use case for ID 2020, which is more humanitarian. We'd have an identity attestation from, let's say, UNHCR, and then maybe they went to Gavi and got an immunization attestation. Maybe they got some training. They got maybe a training attestation, an education attestation. All those are in the possession and control of the identity holder. And that's what this, some people call it self-sovereign identity or decentralized identity. That's the beauty of this, is the individual is in possession and control of this superset of all their identity attributes. Yeah, Accenture knows about Dan because he's driver Dan, but they only have in their centralized repository that specific information. Better Place has my background information, but all that Accenture knows is that I passed that background check. They might not have all that data. Oops. Oh yeah, well, so I could show the passenger. Let's see. So I'll show that real quickly.
And as sort of Dan is
Pseudo quickly.
imagine that this can be then used for the case of course travel, which is very obvious. But also as in terms of the non-traveler digital identity process, I share all of this data up front. So when I'm looking at a ticket, as I said, 24 hours, 38 hours, whatever it is before check-in, I share all of the information up front. So the gate that I'm arriving to is up there, so I can order my face. But my destination country that I'm traveling to already expects me. So I go into the sort of seamless flow of the airline. I don't have to fidget. You know, for me, I don't have to go through my handbag. I don't have to take out all of this stuff again. I don't have to go and revalidate am I who I say I am. I just go through with my face. I don't need to take out my boarding pass. I don't need to waste paper with boarding pass. I don't need to get all of those in government. Also, the destination governments, those are coming, and those who this might be. In the same way, I might want to share all my information with the airlines for personalization. So, for example, I'm vegetarian. Why am I entering that meal request every single time? A frequent traveler, they should know me by now. What movies I prefer to watch, what seats I prefer, how I want my experience. Imagine 5 years' time, how I want my experience to be, and how, at the same time, I can manage that privacy of that data. I choose what data I share, and then therefore how I share it, for how long I share it, when I revoke it, so on and so forth. So that's sort of the, in both sides of sort of using it for personalization, for a more seamless journey, as well as from the sort of authorities side, as well as from the airline side, what they can do.
Right, so it's, sorry, please go ahead.
It's a fantastic app. It's one fantastic application. I just wonder whether, you say that the data is then aggregated on the person, electronic device of the user. Is it aggregated anywhere else? Where is it stored? So if I lose my device,
Great question.
Can I retain that? And then if it is stored elsewhere, does that not mean that all of my aggregated data is able to be hacked and how we protect that?
So I think there are several models in our that can go into it. For now, most of that we have a thing called identity data store, which is very much in line with what the DIF is doing, having a personal identity data store, which for most people is either their phone, their iCloud, whatever device you want to back it up in, so you back up all of the attestation. There are also, where we're doing with production level clients, is that there's identity custody also. So where I think the future really would be is, for in some cases, like with say a vulnerable population that they don't have smartphone, they can delegate that authority for someone else to store it. So imagine in a world where the bank store our money today, tomorrow, maybe it's a similar institution we want to store our identity data that extremely secure and so on. So doesn't exist yet. Just saying out there, well, that should be the future. And I think that there are the person is aggregating, but there are going to be types of data that will not be aggregated by the person. And then you will have to provide consent for the, let's say, medical data. X-rays that are, the terabytes of data, so you can't store on that. So thinking through how some of that data will be about having sharing basic information about me, and then setting consent back to where the original storage of the data is, like say my doctor, and say, please release it to my new doctor, or wherever I'm moving to, and release it between yourselves, but I give you the consent, and they store that consent, and that bit, consent is critical, because then that can be in part of the decentralized kind of system, and then release that data without me having to store it, well, I'm worried about it being hacked, so on and so forth. Sure.
Sorry, oh,
Yeah.
one more question and then,
Yeah.
Oh, please, yeah.
I'm sorry, just carry on actually the same question. Now, there is two things. There is the security for my information, my personal information, but there is also another point is if somebody like governments can get rid of that information, that I don't want them to get rid of it. I mean, because we saw what happened with Zuckerberg, and I mean with Facebook and all this stuff, where the government intervened to say, for national security, we need you to give us this or that information. And then these institutions that we think they are secure find themselves in front of the law to kind of give up the information. I mean, is this any guarantee that we know that me as a citizen trusting your institution and coming with you, I'm not exposing myself one day to not being protected?
So we don't store any of that information, whether it's governments, we build some application, we're a service provider. So in the sense of service integrator, we integrate systems versus store any of the data. Now, each government, each bank, the issuing authorities of the identity, the relying parties that's consuming your identity that you choose to share with, those are the key part of this. Is, of course, security is going to be critically important. The other aspect is really around the fact that how do I give that consent of knowingly what could happen? Today we don't know. Most people, or a lot of us here understand, but the vast majority of the population don't necessarily understand the impact of what could happen. And quite honestly, the impact of what could happen in 25 years, none of us know. Some of the unintended consequences, we're not going to know. So we can try and put as much protection and what we can, but it's also understanding what are some of the liabilities. So I often use the examples that many hotel chains, many airlines, many banks, many governments have all been hacked. Do we still use them? Yes. Why? Because there's value. So, and we also assume, and it's a basic assumption of society, that I walk onto the plane tomorrow, that they still think it's me. When I go back to get my money, that's still my bank account, my money's still in there. That level of assurance of society is almost like, I'm insured for my money, so I don't care if I use my credit card, that sort of thing. That there are opportunities for organizations such as insurance to get together and say, right, I can put some sort of risk mitigation, whether it's such as insurance, reinsurance, all that risk, and to be able to build a different ecosystem that there are multiple entities, governments, banks, technology providers, system integrators such as ourselves, all of you that can actually hold up the corners of that safety blanket and say we can use this identity in a trusted way. There are going to be unintended consequences that we don't yet know, and still be able to use it safely, securely, and in an informed manner that we can propagate it and trust it. And I think the key point is really about ability to trust it without sort of not playing too much of a game of chickens, and use it and see and build as much security and assurance and regulation, all of that in. That time, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted to close out on this, and I want to answer your direct question directly. All the attestations are on an identity wallet in production. We have a backup and recovery mode, and yes, it could go into a cloud instance that's controlled. It's secured through whichever mechanism is required for that level of security. For your personal information is going to be different, right? I just wanted to go back to this. This was after, as Christine asked me to do, is show what the passenger view looked like. So when the driver shared this, I just wanted to show you, this was the one we just did, and I wasn't verified, so the passenger would say, I don't want to take a ride from that guy, but I'll take a ride after the facial verification was done. So yes.
well
So
done.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Depends we have a lot of, we have several production brake system already. This one is we're trying to pilot additional places. No traveler, live passengers is this year. It's coming, 2020, it's coming soon.